Okay, good morning, Indonesia. Today we are gathered here for our first episode of ABB Motion Podcast. This podcast is attended by three magnificent gentlemen: Mr. Tuomo Höysniemi, the President Drive Products of ABB Motion; Mr. Gatot S. Prawiro, Chief Business Development Officer of Maxpower Group Indonesia; and Mr. Adhiguna Mahendra, Chief of AI and Business NoteFlux. Myself will be the host. I'm Eric Hadi from Podcast Nusantara. Today we are going to discuss about building a more powerful Indonesia with less energy. In Southeast Asia, energy efficiency is seen as a vital component to delivering economic growth and improving living standards. Against a background of constrained access to energy, Indonesia itself is the largest energy consumer in Southeast Asia region and a source of continuous rising energy demands. Among other things, businesses, specifically in Indonesia, concerns about the cost of energy, and also there are pressures to meet corporate sustainability goals. So a lot of people are talking about renewable energy to address this issue. However, the fastest and most effective way for businesses to cut energy emissions and energy costs is actually by implementing energy efficiency. So today we are joined by three guest speakers which shall provide insights on the actions that industry leaders can take right now. In this episode, we will also address the biggest barrier for adoption, which is the business case for investment.
A little bit background of our podcast speakers. Mr. Tuomo Höysniemi joined ABB in 2001, and he has extensive senior management and leadership experience in general management, operations, R&D, quality management, customer support, and sales within ABB's drives business. During his career, he has worked in Europe, Asia, and latest in the United States. Mr. Höysniemi holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Helsinki Metropolia University, Finland, and he is certified Six Sigma Black Belt. He is born in 1978 and is Finnish citizen. Mr. Gatot S. Prawiro joined Maxpower Group as Chief Operating Officer in January 2016. In 2017, he was made the Managing Director of the Indonesian and Myanmar APP assets. In 2019, he was given responsibility to be the Chief Business Development Officer of Maxpower Group, based in Jakarta. Prior to joining Maxpower, Mr. Gatot was already in the power industry for more than 27 years, with 20 of it. He served at General Electric. Mr. Gatot spent most of his youth in the UK from 1975 to 1988. He received his mechanical engineering degree at Bristol Polytechnics and his Master of Science at Cranfield University. Mr. Adhiguna Mahendra joined NoteFlux in 2019, where he heads artificial intelligence research and development, managing commercialization and strategy, product development, product market fit, and product lifecycle management. He has more than 22 years professional experiences, including a notable service as past COO, CTO, CEO of Aerosystems Indonesia. He has PhD in instrumentation, imaging, and machine learning from Ecole Doctoral SBIM. Mr. Adi is also an acclaimed author on artificial intelligence startup strategy. Released in August 2023, he will lay out the secrets to building an enterprise artificial intelligence startup. His book is available to be purchased on Amazon.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. We are
Thank
going
you.
to start the discussion. I will pose the first question to Tuomo. So, Tuomo, can you share what ABB Motion is all about and how ABB is actually contributing to drive energy efficiency returns in industrial processes, especially in power generation and power distribution segments?
Sure, thanks for the question. First of all, at ABB Motion, we keep the world turning while saving energy every day. And that tells a lot about our leading position as the variable speed drives and motor player in the world. And I think in the nutshell, we offer opportunities for our customers to save energy, to find more efficient solutions, and also think about longer term savings. Not only the investment, but the operational costs are usually the biggest part. So help our customers to count those savings. And when we think about here in Indonesia, I think there are similar challenges as many emerging countries, that the urbanization, a lot more people, you need a lot more food, but especially the infrastructure around that, the HVAC systems, and then also the water, wastewater, and all those consumes a lot of energy. And then when we help our clients to have a significant savings, that's really solve the problem. And if you think about a little bit more the bigger picture, around 45% of the electricity in the world is used for electric motors. It's really, really significant number. And around only 23% of industrial motors are controlled with a drive. And at the same time, the electricity consumption is rising a lot. And when we equip the process with the typical high efficiency motor and drive, we save 20 to 25% of electricity.
Wow.
And that's common, but it can be even more. And while mentioned at the beginning to have something concrete, that I stay nice hotel here in Jakarta, but the air conditioning is not controlled with a drive.
Okay.
And if I take an example, we just retrofit a similar hotel in Madrid, in Spain, add new high efficiency motors included with a drive, save 40% of electricity. And on top of that, the guest will get quiet rooms. There is not that big noise that the air conditioning is going up and down. And at the same time, the lifetime for the whole solution is significantly longer. So in the nutshell, we help to save huge amount of energy, but at the same time, we help the customers and users have a lot better fit for processes, the longer, more reliable processes, and then at the end of the day, keep everyone happy.
All right. So thanks, Tuomo, for your response. So I'm going to ask another question, from your answer. How is it that you see Indonesia is different? Because you mentioned about, an example of Indonesian hotel, implementation of the aircon system, HVAC. How do you see Indonesia is different from the rest of the world in terms of implementation of energy efficiency initiatives?
Usually fast-growing countries are even more focused on the investment than the operational cost. And if you take only example of the motor, around 93 to 94% of the cost is the lifetime operational cost. Only 3 to 4% are the investment cost at the beginning. But when you plan the investment, you only see the 3 to 4%, and that is driving the decision. If you take our example, that instead of picking the typical motor, that you pick the high efficiency motor, usually the payback is less than a year to fund the high efficiency motor. And then the rest, 10, 12, 15 years is significant savings. So that's not only Indonesia, but it's the fast growing countries, the investments are so much driven by the cost. And I think we should see a bit longer term operating cost. And at the end of the day, the customers, the end users, they should be aware that what is the consequences based on these investment decisions.
I think I can relate to the answer because I think you're right. Most Indonesian or most emerging countries focuses more on the investment cost, the capex, not considering the overall total cost of ownership during the operations of the whole infrastructure. So I'm going to turn the next question to Pak Gatot. Pak Gatot, reflecting to what Tuomo has said, how do you see as yourself, Maxpower Group, as an independent power producer? What kind of challenges that you face, to create continuous energy efficiencies, actions, deliverables in meeting demands from your customers?
Thank you. Fortunately, at Maxpower, beginning from the top, which is the CEO, and then there's myself and the board of directors, echoes 100%, and I would like to say 1,000% if possible, to what Tuomo have said. We have been trained, as it happens just by chance, the CEO and myself are both long-term employees of GE. At GE, in those days, even we were taught about efficient decision. I think the other name is life cycle cost. We are educating our customers from many years ago that looking at just the capex is not enough. You need to look at the life cycle cost. That is where the benefits lie. So back to Maxpower, to your question, fortunately, because of the leaders, and then we are imparting and teaching and training our employees to think about life cycle cost, we have resort to that. We think about life cycle cost so that the benefits is enjoyed by us and also by our customer, which, by the way, Maxpower is a small to medium-sized power company. So we invest in power plants. As it happens, at the moment, most of our engines are made in Austria. So it's already a good company. And then all the other parts, panels, we see ABB also around. So we have resort to that life cycle cost approach so that we can benefit us and also the customers. I think the quick answer to your question is that we are implementing that life cycle cost approach to benefit us and the customer.
All right.
I think that's very important.
All right. So, from your perspective, how do you see solutions provider such as ABB would actually be able to contribute to this initiative?
Okay. That's something that is very, very true. That every day we are faced, even us who have embraced that approach, we are still grappling with the capex that usually is more because we have to, it's consistent, right? But even so, we have to try our best to even also reduce capex. So basically, the answer to your question is that we are struggling and we are trying to be creative with companies like ABB, where to help us, then maybe there is instead of reducing the capex, which is almost impossible, to a certain extent, we ask for better terms of payment, for example, right? So it helps our cash flow. So this kind of activity, creativity in payment, we always, offer to the equipment supplier who provides this efficient components.
All right.
So it's terms of payment. We resort to terms of payment to help a little bit our cash flow. That's normally what we try.
Okay. All right. Would you comment on that, Tuomo, in helping companies like Maxpower or similar companies in implementing solutions?
Absolutely, but I think none of us are a bank, so there need to be the rationale behind the investment and understand that what is the long-term way. And at the end of the day, I think users are willing to pay if they know. And we talk about a bit more later this energy efficiency movement. The awareness is the key, because then when people know and see the value, I think they are willing to pay a bit more and then get a major savings later. Because with our payment terms, we can have a little fine-tuning, but that will not turn around the whole thing. It's really the users who change that. And then I still add the other part that I think industrial side, there is a bit better knowledge and awareness. I think overall the commercial side is getting more, but then residential side is far behind. And I think that's another part that when I came here from the airport, there are still building new houses with this discrete individual air conditioning units, which are very low efficiency. And then if you get those centralized, then everybody win and very quickly.
Yes.
So again, I think the awareness is the most important thing. Then we'll find a way to move forward then.
All right. Yep. Thank you. So before moving on to question to Pak Adhiguna, so we found that according to the recent PwC study, 45% of businesses state that their fear in 2024 are actually that their companies will not survive in the next 10 years because of pressures from climate change, energy usage and energy efficiency, energy demands, and also new technology, especially AI. So PwC questions over than 4,700 CEOs over the world from 105 countries. So nearly 75% of these CEOs said that AI will significantly change the way their company creates, delivers, and captures value in the next 3 years. The survey released as business leaders, political leaders, and activists gathered for the World Economic Forum's yearly meeting in Davos, Switzerland. So, in relation to that, my question to Pak Adhiguna, what do you think are the challenges of AI implementation in energy efficiency, especially in Indonesia?
Okay, thank you for the question, Pak Eric. So I happen to help Indonesian government in several capacities as a technical advisor and also helping them building some regulations. And I think the most, disturbing challenge in Indonesia is about the infrastructure, right? So we have too many islands, 17,000 islands in Indonesia. And to build all the good infrastructures in every island is almost impossible, I would say. Even in Java, it's not well planned and well designed. And that's the first challenge. And second challenge, I would say, is the talents. So let's say we want to build this kind of smart infrastructures and everything, and we already have the infrastructure set up, but who then will be able to implement that, right? So we are relying on the outside contractors and vendors, and there's a problem with that somehow there's a core technology that we need to be able to control and monitor, right? Okay. And I think there's a big issues with the talents, and especially the one who can create, design, and control all these systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with you in terms of whatever new technology, even existing technology, when we do the designing. But how about the operations management and also maintenance? Do we have talents for that part?
Well, I would say that for the operation management and talent and maintenance is much better than design part. But still, I'm in industry as well as in the university, right?
Yeah.
So I see that there's a gap of the education and the real application in the industry. For the operation management, now it's much better, I would say. Although I'm still in industry saying that this is not up to my standards, right? But it's still much better. But right now, if you're talking about AI, for example, now the trend is AI, and there are many new technologies, and I'm not even talking about the technology. Let's talk about the framework of how actually we can apply this particular AI solutions to different use cases in operation management or maintenance.
Yeah.
If you ask these questions to some industry practitioner in Indonesia, how many of them will understand this?
Okay.
Right. So there's still a gap, and especially now with the AI and everything, the gap is getting bigger.
Yeah.
And I think we need to catch up on that.
Yeah, I think one of the core issue that we have as a challenge in Indonesia is the integral holistic understanding of how infrastructure works and the supporting components to make it run smooth, right? So dwelling on that, Pak Adhiguna, I understand that you are also involved in designing AI technologies for the new capital, the Nusantara new capital, or Ibu Kota Nusantara. Can you share a bit to us about that?
So Ibu Kota Nusantara has a very, I would say, a very good vision about how to implement the smart technology for the city, or we call it the smart city. Even we already released a blueprint about that a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
Right. So it has several different domains, from the transportation, renewable energy, surveillance, the public sector service and everything. So The vision and mission of Nusantara is how to create a clean city, which is powered by renewable energy.
All right.
And it is also monitored and optimized by the intelligence systems, from the security to the surveillance to the traffic, right? So in order to do that, we need to have sound enterprise architecture, which is connected to sensors in all aspects of the city, from the camera to IoT sensors for the pollution, for the water level management, to the pollution monitoring and everything. So I think if you want to see I would say the cutting edge application of artificial intelligence for smart city, we are going to see it in the new capital.
All right. So I'm also curious, Pak Adi, regarding is there any specific use case that you have encountered regarding AI applications for energy efficiency, especially in relation, Pak Gatot is a power generation company. Is there any insights that you can share in terms of power generation, power distribution, and also power usage using AI in
Okay.
Indonesia?
Okay, so actually, what AI can help to us is, first of all, AI is very good in forecasting and predicting things.
Okay.
It's very good in optimizing things. It's very good also on anomaly detection when there is something strange happen. And last but not least, it's very good in planning, like scenario planning, counterfactuals, and describing what is the scenario that will happen if we change these variables. Okay. So in terms of energy generation, for example, there are several applications of AI for that. First is, of course, the design of the energy generation systems, from the placement and also from the installation standpoint. Okay, how can we have the data? And this data is going to be like the historical data or maybe demand data of the energy and the potential energy that can be generated. From that, we can optimize the placement and the installation of the energy generator systems, right?
Okay.
For the energy distribution, I mean, energy distribution or power distribution has several phases as well, right? There's a transmission and sub-transmission and distribution.
Yeah.
So for the transmission, for example, the application of AI is actually to also predicting the demand and predicting the energy generated.
Okay.
Okay, and then to make sure that the transmission is operate in a correct operation and safe operation domain. For example, it's not too much energy that will cause overheating or some other problems.
All right.
And for the sub transmission, so we are talking about the placement of the substation, right? So where the substation should be placed. For that, we need to analyze all the networks which is involved, and then we need to also put an emphasis on the voltage capacity arrangement, so that the voltage generated is not too much with the minimum energy loss, right? So the last is distribution.
Yeah.
In the distribution, the most important thing is that the AI is capable to analyze the whole networks of the node or the substation, so that if there is a problem in one particular node, there is a potential outage or problems, it can reroute the whole transmission. So,
Okay.
for example, this is for distribution. And the last is for the services. This is the usage part. So I was also involved here because I was the user actually. I was running one of the biggest data center in Indonesia in Garuda, right? So at that moment it was the biggest. So one of my problem is that the cost of the cooling systems
Right.
and the cost of electricity for the servers, because we are handling the servers for the whole Garuda group,
Yeah.
right? So for that, we also use some. I'm not saying it's AI. At that moment, it was just an intelligent system. But now AI will be able to help this more. It's actually to, for example, optimize the workload. So some of the server, which we think that workload is not that big, we can reroute to other server, for example. And for cooling system as well, we also use some systems to actually optimize the cooling system and HVAC systems. So also I help some of the companies in Indonesia. I won't say the name, but this company is actually the subsidiary of the state-owned company in Indonesia, and they are also actually in electrical business, right? So they also creating this smart meter and also the application. And the good thing about their business model is that it's useful for the customer as well to actually monitor, maintain, and optimize the usage of the electricity on their factory or even on their home, right? So these kind of things are also using a lot of AI to optimize, to see the inefficiency in one particular part and giving some recommendation. So this is where I think AI can be useful in power-related
All right.
applications.
So I'm going to turn to Tuomo. So how do you envision AI to actually be able to help this kind of use cases scenarios from ABB standpoint?
I think that's a very valid question. We need to work together with application expert and even the site level. And if we take an example, what you mentioned, the data center, there is a lot of knowledge and now added knowledge of the how to control that. And then when we add our technology for the higher efficiency motors, high efficiency drives, and work together, then we can get very significant savings. It does not mean that all the intelligence needs to come on control from ABB. It can be, we offer that. But if you have external way to control that, use a lot of AI, then we can contribute together that with the high efficiency motors and drives. And then I still like to highlight this a really good example, these data centers, because typically the standard has been to design those technologies for 5 years. Which is a really short period of time. We can provide very reliable technology for 10 or 15 years plan. And then instead of having many small units for cooling, when we make this a larger scale cooling systems, the efficiency is so much better. And then nicely combined with the local control system and AI. So I think that's really the today's winning recipe.
All right. So Tuomo, another question. So if we take, an approximate estimates, how much more if we want to implement, all these new solutions based on AI, how much more should a customer pay in terms of percentage, typical, and how much savings would be derived from that, from the implementation of the solution?
That's a very broad question. It's a very good question, but it really depends on the application and the full solution. But if I can say typical, what we've seen that if you pay 10-20% more, you can get a huge savings and the payback is often a year or two. And then the rest of the 8 to 12, 13 years is all savings. So we don't talk about any kind of sky high additional investment, but say 10, 20, 30%. And then we really see significant savings.
So the significant savings will be realized starting from year 7 onwards.
I think the savings starts right away.
Oh, okay.
But then the payback means that how many years you need to use the process that you get the savings for the additional investment. And I think that's the key part there. But again, it does not mean any kind of massive investment and waiting 10, 15 years. It means that when you are ready for those investment, when you have the awareness and interest and the dialogue with end user, then savings starts right away. And after a year or two, you will start to gain all that.
Right. Thank you, Tuomo. Pak Gatot.
Yes.
From the perspective of independent power producer, I understand that you use gas, right, to produce electricity. So, in your point of view, reflecting from what Tuomo has mentioned and also Pak Adi has mentioned, how do you see this being applicable to your industry?
Yeah, the two things. First, I think we touched a little bit on this part, and that is about the talents and the people that we have, the SDM, the human resources. That, as has been discussed earlier on, needs to be improved to understand and to begin thinking about life cycle costs instead of just focusing on capex. That is still very, very solid, very, very strong in this today. Even in the big state-owned companies, They always look at that. Yeah, in the tender document they put, we are not bound to choose the cheapest, but that doesn't mean anything. They still resort to the cheapest.
All right.
The cheapest, the cheapest. So that needs to. We have a relatively long way to go with regards to instilling that attitude of life cycle cost. Saving starts day one, and the rest, is profit. That needs to be so. Even in our company, a private company, we are thinking about that continually. How to improve our resources, human resources, to adapt that. Okay.
Right. You mean the mindset?
The mindset,
Right.
and then we do training too. But you're right, training the mindset, the paradigm shift. So that is mostly regarding the technology. We touch on AI, but actually we try to address efficiency directly. For example, I will never be tired of teaching and sharing with the customer. Why do you want only electricity? Because the exhaust can do so much more also. So I've been, preaching about cogeneration, tri-generation. Can you imagine? Simple cycle, as we call it, electricity production only, is only probably 44-45% efficiency. If you make it a tri-generation, you go straight up to 95%. That is already a big energy saving thing, So that is what we are trying to do. I think Tuomo touched on a little bit at the beginning about district cooling. I would love to have district cooling in Indonesia, to see it actually in operation, because there is so much opportunity in industrial estate. For example, you have a power generation and the exhaust heat is just thrown away. You can convert that and then into a cooling, which we need, right? Aircon we need, right? So I was also involved, as you know, with the green data center. Well, we proposed tri-gen, for cooling is things like that. So two things. Technologically, actually, there's not much advance in that. Just make it more common sense. Catch the energy lost, make it into something more useful. But at the same time, prior to that, the human resources has to be trained and improved.
I think that's an interesting point of view, Pak Gatot. So my question is, we all know that in a corporate setting, not only energy efficiency, but financial efficiency is also key for survival. And I think top leaders, top management usually bring out this financial efficiency theme as well in daily operations. So in contrast to that, we have now, the talent mindset. How do you see the relevancy, from the top management and also from the people on the operations side in the same company, when we talk about, changing the mindset? That's one. And can you share also about, what kind of KPIs are required, in the corporate setting, so everyone is actually having the same mindset that energy efficiency is key?
One of the simplest one, that taking example from our company, is that running the power plant, which usually consists of a few units of power generation units, efficiently, meaning that there is this mindset that in the field, it's safe just to run all the engines, for example, right? Whereas actually all the engines are run, yes, it's safe, but it's all operating at 50%, for example.
Okay.
That is very wasteful.
All right.
But in the field, that's what they think. My KPI is to make sure that the power plant runs all the time well, But actually, that is not, as you said, economically efficient, because it's running at a very, very bad efficiency. They could have more courage, more training. That for this load in the day, I should only run 4 engines instead of 6 or 7, right? So that training that is required. So running all engines or partly because of the load, because the load demand of every day is very similar. It's sometimes most at night or at day. It's a cycling. It's not like this, right? So knowing, being trained how to run like that, because that result to efficiency of running. And another thing also is that we have installed remote monitoring, right, to help. That's part of the thing. So we have a cockpit in our office in Jakarta, and we have about 17 power plants all across Indonesia, from Aceh to Papua. So all are in there, and we can see each power plant, how it's operating, and what is the condition, how many engines is down, So we help from the headquarters, because usually where the most expertise is there. But yeah, that's how we try to squeeze the running cost down.
Okay.
But the training, don't forget, must be done.
So mentioning about KPI, Pak Gatot, what kind of KPI do you set, or do you think should be set in the company for energy efficiency?
The KPI are, for example, like the number of kilowatt hour required from the load from PLN, for example, and the number of engines run. And then we can see also, because of the historical data, right, recorded, what kind of loading the engines are at. Because then we can see that this particular plant manager, you have not met your KPI because, yes, you run your engines, but a very low efficiency. That's one KPI, for example.
All right. All right. I think one interesting point that I can derive from your answer is regarding education. So I'm going to turn back to Pak Adi. Pak Adi, you have a long history of education, educating yourself, and also now educating the society. I understand that you are also part of Indonesian AI society. So how do you see, education for Indonesian regarding, the practice of either AI or relevant to energy efficiency? What do you think has taken place, and what do you think should be improved?
Okay, I think the foundational education for these kind of things are supposed to be on the vocational level. And unfortunately, the vocational level foundation in Indonesia is very, very, I would say, very low, right? I was also involved in the design of SKKNI, which is the standard of education, actually, for vocation, and also for the SMK, the high school for technical people. And I would say that the curriculum was there, but the capability of the trainers, also or the instructors, are not there yet, right? So let's not even talk about the more advanced energy management and operation. Just the basic things of the concept of power systems and everything is still, I would say, is still lacking. So this is in the why I say this is very important, especially for vocational level,
Right?
Because the one who is actually on the field, on directly in doing the installation, operation, and everything is someone from vocational school, not from university, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a very, very important. And as for the university, I would say that the top university in Indonesia, we have no problem with that. The top private or state university in Indonesia, but for the rest, I think it's only like 5% of the whole Indonesian university population, and the rest, there's a huge gap on that. So what the government should do, I think, first of all, focus on the vocation first. So focus on the polytechnic, SMK in Indonesia, educate them, and I think it's going to be good if there's a involvement also from a company like ABB, for example, to educate in the vocational level. And I think this is they will be welcoming for the new concepts and the new technology, especially from a well-known company like ABB. So I think this is what needs to be done, because the government cannot do it alone. So I think the government needs to have some involvement from the companies as well.
Valid point from my perspective, but I would like to ask your opinion, Tuomo, regarding what Pak Adi has mentioned regarding education and how ABB is actually involving itself in other parts of the world, maybe also in Indonesia, in terms of educating the society to become better.
Yeah, and I think that's really the most important thing, because people make the difference, and if you are not deeply involved in this education, you cannot make the difference. It really depends on the country. In some countries, we are deeper involved of the university and school system, more some regions. But I think in overall, it should be step by step, like you said, that we should not set the bar too high if it's not the proper way to approach there. So again, the awareness with the logical steps, and sometimes it's the small things, just to be part of the education, the curriculum there, that you join, share the stories, and get involved.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that sometimes we are invited, sometimes we are maybe a little bit empowering ourselves to participate, and with the different school, different activities, get more awareness, and then have the consistent repeating story. At least my experience is that you come once to say AI, it's a cool thing, but nothing happened after that. People don't take that so seriously. So it needs to be really consistent and forward-looking. And we have good examples, but we also have areas where we can really do better.
Right.
And I think it's a win-win at the end of the day. The schools need to ask more companies to participate. But on the other hand, from company perspective, we need to be more open-minded to join.
Yeah.
And also sometimes invest something. But I think we are willing to do more when we know the schools better, when we know the commitment. But again, the learning is that this one-time shots are not very powerful.
Yes.
So there need to be the continuity and long-term approach with those schools and kind of educational entities.
All right. So has ABB done similar things like this in other parts of the world, which means involving directly with the vocational area?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
But not in Indonesia yet.
There are some smaller scale, but not this kind of
All right.
the more systematic programs.
Right.
But then I think it usually is more like people know each other, so there are some other connections, but not the kind of such a systematic company way. But I think we are very open-minded to do that.
All right. So I think that this is one action item after this podcast. We can continue discussion, regarding how ABB is going to be involved in the vocational sector in Indonesia.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
going back to Pak Gatot,
Yes.
I think you started the answer regarding talent, talent scarcity, talent management, talent mindset. How do you see, not only I think in AI, but in building a more powerful Indonesia as a whole? What kind of challenges do we have as a nation, as a country?
Yeah, I think it's going to take more than just one time. It has to be a program. I don't mention the number, but I was appalled by somebody telling me that the average IQ of Indonesians are quite low. I says, really, that low?
Right.
So that is really saddening, right? Now, why is that? Well, apparently, if you want to go down to the start from gizi, from the feeding and proper
From the nutrition.
from the nutrition, correct. So yeah, it's a wide thing. But once you get to a educative sort of years, I think what needs to be educated now is about the long-term view of things. Instead of teaching the students or the pupils things that they have to know hafalan, instead of you need to go one
Everything
further.
needs to be memorized
Right,
in Indonesia.
by memory. Not only to teach them how to memorize, because the brain can do that itself, right? You begin to teach them about paradigms. You teach them about wisdom in life, and so you see the impact of you being there in that society. So, I mean, I think maybe it's better because he's an educator, but I am looking at it from a practical person who practices in the business. I see people sometimes even the common sense is not there.
Okay.
That is very sad.
Yeah.
So that's why when I interview people, I don't look for supposedly the smart guy, but I'm looking for the one with the good character, because the good character I can teach, right? And maybe teach better.
Yeah.
The one smart, maybe you can become a smart thief. But so these things is very important. We need more educators that teaches to see the long term and the impacts of his or her actions.
Yeah.
I think. I experienced in the 33 years I've been in my career, inevitably I have subordinates, and my goal is to teach them, to impart to them things that of that effect, long-term impact of things that we do. I think that's very important. So I think it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It requires one, continual, two, basic but underlying foundations, and that is to just look at this. In the past, in the old days, there was a curriculum in even the SD and the SMP, Budi Pekerti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now no more.
No, we don't have that. Yeah.
Now no
Budi
more.
Pekerti is what? Ethics.
Ethics.
Yeah.
I
Ethics.
think you need to teach these things as a foundation, not memories, memorize dates and
things,
what for.
Yeah.
That's my.
Yeah, I think for most of us, even in our organization, we always have the saying that it's not that whether you can or you cannot, but it's about whether you are willing or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, agree.
Okay. So, Pak Adi, do you dare to comment? From Pak Gatot's response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really agree with he's saying that I think character is more important than the intelligence itself, because intelligence is something we can teach, but character is not. And I agree that right now what is lacking, if we talk a little bit outside of the scope, but if we talk about the Gen Z right now, they are smart. I agree, they are smart. They are very innovative, very articulate. But just like Pak Gatot said, because the character education is lacking, right? So sometimes it's harder to mentor them compared to the previous generation, right? And I think being mentorable is a very important trait. Very important trait. You cannot, even if you are very smart, you know everything from the internet, you still need to be mentorable, right? And I think this is what is lacking in the current generation. I hope that, I don't know, I think social media and smartphone and technology, AI and everything has something to do with it, of course. But I believe that I think we should go back to the character education.
To the core roots.
The core roots, yeah.
All right. So, Tuomo, all of us, the four of us here doing this podcast, we all wear the same pin. Yeah? Not the same clothes, but the same pin. It's called Energy Efficiency Movement, or EEM. So I understand that ABB is the global mover and also founder of Energy Efficiency Movement. Can you let us know and share more about this initiative, and how is it going to actually move the world into a better place?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as you said, we have this nice circle here. And by the way, this is not showing any ABB logo, because we want to get there a very large community, also competitors, major companies, and it's a non-profit organization, but we are the founder for that. And the idea is really to get together the stakeholders, the thought leaders, to help each other, to save energy, to save the better efficiency, but also find the ways together to save the planet. And the target is really, really high, because when we work together, we are so much stronger. And if take some practical examples, like talk about the district cooling earlier, which is a huge opportunity. But it doesn't help if ABB is having the best motors and drives. There is the power generating company, there are the building owners, there are different buildings, and then there are a lot of consultants, there are a lot of integrators, different vendors. And if we don't know together what to do, it's very hard to be attractive and the great solution. But the idea of the energy efficiency movement is really get those companies together who are all committed that they have at least one main action what they do, and then they do more. And if I take another example from ABB side, we committed that 2030 all our facilities, including all the factories, are zero emissions. And it's quite an investment because we have also a lot of areas in the cold areas where we use a lot of gas for heating. And to change that like the geothermal approach and then get the electricity from renewables and make those things happening. Even in US, the state where we are operating, we are the forerunner to now make this conversion. So we want to also show the way that we really commit highly. And now today we have more than 400 major companies join the energy efficiency movement around the world. And based on only first like 10 major actions, there will be savings of 4 gigatons of CO2.
Wow.
And now we talk about quite a numbers. So it's really the way that someone needs to start and find the way for the governance. The governance is also like half dozen key companies. And then together we can make a difference. So I warmly welcome to join the energy efficiency movement and also the many more companies in Indonesia. So I'm sure that that's one way to increase the awareness and together be faster. Because I think many companies, many leaders know what to do. The speed is far too slow. And then when we get together, we can find ways to accelerate this transition. And I think the energy efficiency movement is a great way to support on that.
Yeah. I think the challenge that we now have, mostly in Indonesia, is that Indonesian maybe might not think about what kind of impact is going to be derived from energy efficiency movement, right? Because I think a lot of businesses as well, aside from getting the energy savings in terms of dollar value, they don't know in terms of maybe not getting the right education, what kind of benefits that businesses will actually gain by implementing EEM, this EEM practice. So can you share a little bit, Tuomo, regarding, so if businesses are actually implementing EEM, what kind of, can you share calculation examples in terms of the dollar? How is the impact going to be received by businesses that implement this?
Yeah, to be honest, the energy efficiency movement is not any predefined process or calculation. It's active participation of community. And there are very different companies, very different cases, very different countries. So there is not any like a single way. Yeah. But if we talked earlier about this, the hotels, the HVAC part, and if we take one of the partner in Spain, they just modernize hotel, the motors and drives, they save 40%, 40.
Wow.
With a lot more comfortable hotel room. And I think that is something that we often talk about only the money. But when we take the latest technology and then leveraging also AI, the end user in most of the cases is seeing a lot more comfortable way. And on top of that, usually the maintenance costs are lower and also the lifetime for the solution is longer. Yeah. But it's very hard to define like the general formula because it depends of the application, it depends of the country, it depends of the electricity, the cost. There are many parameters. But all in all, in most of the cases, the savings are bigger and faster than anticipated. And I think that's the major learning already.
Yeah. Okay. So understanding EEM in practice, we are also participating. Our organization is also participating in energy efficiency movement. And from what we have seen is that all the targets, the efficiency targets, and also the action items are being defined independently by ourselves. So the question is, Tuomo, what happens if we don't achieve or we don't comply to the action that we actually put in the portal? So I don't I don't think there's going to be any consequences, but how do you maintain the motivation for the businesses, or for all stakeholders that are being involved here? And is there any rankings that is going to be announced later? In terms of, okay, in Indonesia, this is the major losers or the major winners in terms of savings and all that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we are very early stage of the journey with energy efficiency movement, so we welcome ideas. But what is clear that this is not a centralized governance to rank or control companies. What we see already that in many companies the leadership start to be a lot more interested when they see the opportunities, and via this energy efficiency movement, sharing the opportunities and practices. Many companies have first of all clearly defined their targets, and then they follow those just as an integrated part of the company leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that is the part that this should not be a separate topic that someone is pushing you. It should be part of like safety. That you talk about the safety as a core in your company, then you talk about the sustainability and then the ways how you can run that forward. And I think in those best companies, it's part of the daily work. And I still refer this younger generation that I think younger generation is a lot more aware. Is maybe all the new technology, today's technology, but we hear that very often from our candidates that they want to understand more the ESG, the company sustainability. And while we say how much we contribute, the younger generation really like to join companies who are forerunner of the sustainability. That I think that is a one way to influence. And I would say that I'm very happy to see the trend. Because to some extent, like we talked earlier, the younger generation have a stronger opinions. But when they have a stronger opinions of sustainability and save the planet, I think it's very welcome.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate that.
Okay. Pak Gatot, my question is, we talk about energy efficiency movement initiatives, AI in action. I would like to ask regarding, from your perspective as well, from the industry. So in regards of EEM implementation, specifically for Indonesia or in your industry, considering that, for power plants, most of them are being fired by coals, not by renewables. Right? How do you see this movement is going to change Indonesia, and how do we actually increase more awareness and more active participation in the movement?
Okay, well, to begin with, we need to understand and maybe accept and understand that I think going forward, fossil fuel is going to be still around because that's what we've all been predicting. All the experts are saying fossil fuel is still going to be around. However, so accept that. However, maybe at a more reduced component, composition. So what is going to increase and must increase is the renewable part, right? So fossil is still going to be around because the country needs it, and then the renewable has to increase. So that's one. Going forward, I think, our group is there. We are running on gas mostly, so that's pretty clean. But we are also increasing on the renewable, like geothermal, solar. We are going into that. Now we are also looking into wave and current and that kind of thing. So the drive for that, and the way I see that is the reason has to be inherent. I think we touched on earlier, and that is that you were talking about rewards or punishment if we don't meet. Tuomo is right. There's no central government but it has to be inherent in each company that there is in it for me. Yeah. There's something for me. So that has to be instilled in company. So in our company, we have that. That if we go this way, this is going to benefit us because we are going to be having a reputation of a clean company, efficient company, and going into the renewable part of the business. So I think, and because not because so that we can be looking at and join the bandwagon, but because there is a real reason,
All right.
and that is money, of course, right? So there is this economical benefits that drives us ourselves. So we're not looking for rewards but we have within ourselves a target that we have to go this way because it is money earning. Now, I'd like to go back and nostalgic down the path nostalgic. My chairman in my previous company says that green is green.
Okay.
I mean, being green makes money.
Yeah.
That is our drive.
Yeah.
Right. So that's basically our commitment.
All right. So green is dollar, right?
Yes. Green is green.
All right. I think that would serve as a concluding remark from your side, right? So I would like to ask a concluding remark from you, Pak Adi, in regards of our discussion, building a more powerful Indonesia with less energy, please.
Okay, I would say that we have to start with mindsets and education first, because I think this is the foundation, right?
Yeah.
And I think the government needs to be tightly, integrated with this initiative, related with the energy efficiency of all, because everything is finally related with the regulation,
Okay.
right? And I think this is the most important. Everything has to be started from the top, from the government.
Yeah.
And after that, the government needs to instill this mindset of efficiency and how can technology helps on this. So don't focus on the technology, because technology is just I would say this is just a support systems, right? AI and everything, it's just support systems. Whatever technology you have, if you don't have a correct mentality and mindset for that, it's not going to work, right? So I think we start with mindset.
So the government policies will actually shape the actions and implementations on the field, right?
Exactly.
Right. So a concluding remark from you, Tuomo.
Yeah, I can just echo the earlier comments, and maybe then adding that the speed is the key, because people know what to do, the technology is available, what to do. The important thing is that we need to move faster, especially Indonesia. And then the awareness. So really share that, the education and awareness. And then also share those winning stories, because it's important that people understand the difference, the numbers. And I think those are very powerful. So whenever there are success, find more channels to share other companies, other communities, and really get faster speed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So before we close the podcast, I would like to ask the audience who are watching this show, our first episode, to please like and subscribe to this channel, because your support will mean to us to produce more episodes in the coming time. So before we end this podcast, we have this efficiency greetings. So efficiency greetings, yeah. So in the count of 3, we are going to take a look at that camera in the center, and we say efficiency greetings. All right? Okay. In the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Efficiency greetings. All right. Thank you, Pak Adi, Pak Gatot, and also Tuomo for attending our first episode of this ABB Motion podcast. I hope that everything that we discuss will enable us and also the audience to have insights and more ideas to implement energy efficiency to build a more powerful Indonesia. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.